Well, hello and welcome. I took last week off. For I was, well, I guess I should introduce myself first. This is Lanita, the scrappy grandma. Um, yeah, I took last week off and to prepare for the Passover one, which actually I didn't really prepare a lot for the Passover. I just needed a break. I just really needed a break. Spent a lot of time with the grandkids. They are medicine for my soul. Um, and just took some downtime, which it's interesting because this is the season. It's interesting. I felt going into Passover just a mess, with everything that's been going on and physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, just and seeing a bunch of friends like, oh, this is my Seder table and my Passover, and they're beautiful. And then the enemy really came in and started messing with my head, that I wasn't doing enough. And I know he did it to a lot of us. And my husband, Rusty, he's like, it's a remembrance. All the other stuff is just stuff. We'll have a remembrance meal. And that's what we did. And then we've just been, well, we took, had a Shabbat and we've rested. And then he went to work on Friday. And then we had a Shabbat yesterday and rested. And we're catching up. We're catching up, but it's been a lot, but perfectly timing going into the counting of the Omar. And that's something that I want to share, but I think I'm going to share it over in my walking in the way a little bit here. And I will make a note to put Lisa's videos link for the counting of the Omar. It is a beautiful tradition, which is, you know what? The traditions, if they help to magnify him, they're not a burden. They bring change in us. This is why the enemy works so hard to blot out these days and create counterfeits that people seek to feed their flesh instead of emptying themselves and examining ourselves. And so counting of the Omar is 50 days from um, Passover to Shavuot, which is Pentecost. So it was the 50 days before, that they went through before they got the law, the Torah, the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. It's also the time that the Holy Spirit came down. And so they have a tradition of daily working on different attributes of the Most High and practicing them in our lives, and examining ourselves where we need to come in alignment with that attribute. Because don't we all want, I mean, that's what we're here for, is we want to empty ourselves of our fleshly attributes and nature and take on his nature and attributes. So, um, I didn't know this was a thing, and it's a beautiful thing, and I'm seeing it everywhere. So the Father is poof bringing it out to a lot more people now. He's opening eyes. Praise you. Thank you, Most High. Um, so daily we work on a different part, or a different attribute, and we start out with Chesed, which is it's indescribable, but it's a loving kindness, it's grace, mercy, and that's they take that one word chesed, Chesed or Hesed. Um, and there's different attributes to that word in Hebrew. And so, hold on, let me real quick see if I do it from here. Do it from here. Okay, so we're keeping a little journal as we go through, but I will put the link in there. But basically, so Hesed, like the first day, it was loving kindness. The day it was grace of grace, loving kindness. And it goes on, that when we truly allow ourselves, we love because he first loved us. And when we truly are able to allow ourselves, which is something I've had a major problem with my whole life, and processing my, dad, caring for my dad, and then him dying, um, in my home after, and essentially he was never in my life except for a handful of times. It's been interesting to, and the Father's been doing a real healing work in that, in processing that. But anyway, so when it says here, when you let yourself be loved by Yah, and then you can, and then you can love. Love isn't a burden to carry, it's an overflow from His love into us. We're able to overflow our love out to others, and it's not a burden. But we've taken on attributes of the world, the enemy. We've come into agreement with lies. And that's the whole counting of the Omar, is to cut the agreement that we've come into with the lies of this world and of the enemy, and then take on and practice the truth and the attributes of the Most High. So I will put that link in there. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm so thankful that the Father has brought me to this understanding so that we can, that I can be more like Him. So let's start first. Father, Elohim Most High, Creator of all things, thank you. Thank you for the revelations that you drop into us. Thank you for answering my prayer a few years ago to give me a hunger and a thirst for your word, because through your word, my entire life has changed. And I know that's true for everyone who's listening to this. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to rid ourselves of the habits and curses that we've picked up in our lifetime from the world and the enemy, and to trade them out for your nature, your attributes. Thank you that you've given us a way through Yeshua, our Messiah. Father, let only my words come out. Don't let me speak anything that's not of you. And just help me to share my journey. And thank you for the opportunity. Actually, thank you for the command to do this. And thank you for giving me the strength and the energy and just prodding me each time. Sorry for the hooting owl. In Yeshua's holy name. Amen. Sorry, it's our gate alarm. If you heard that hooting going off, hooty hoot owl. Actually, I'm going to go and take that down because Rusty's out there working, and it's probably going to make it go off a lot. Okay, so a couple of things. This one might be a little bit longer because actually we're right in the middle of, for those of you that are following the feast, you know that we're right in the middle of the Passover week. So I just want to do a little reading for the next couple of days in the Passover week. Then I'll get to the Torah portion that we read, that we study for the week, and then we read next Shabbat. So what is I got to share my screen, and I want to go to that one. And wish I knew a way to have this setting always like this, but I don't. So, okay. Share. So this is what helps me stay on track with my Torah portions, because they do, they change. And so Passover, what is that? 5, 6, 7 on the 7th, day 7. So I'm just going to read the 7th day of Passover and the 10 songs of Israel, Exodus 15 and 2 Samuel 22. David spoke the words of this song to the Lord in the day that the Lord delivered him from the hands of all of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. 2 Samuel 22:1. On the 7th day of Passover, we hear the 7th song. The sages enumerated 10 songs. Israel recited the first song on the first Passover, the night that they ate their Passover lambs, and Yah struck down Egypt's firstborn. They sang the second song after crossing the Red Sea on the 7th day of Passover. The sages counted David's song of gratitude in this Haftarah portion as the seventh of the 10 songs. The 10th and the last song awaits the coming Messiah. Um, you know what? That doesn't seem to be a commentary. So I apologize. I'm just not. Hmm. Well, except for if the seventh day, you know, it's a remembrance. I guess I apologize. I didn't read it ahead of time. And I'm going to go and just do this one is for, I'm sorry, pass, and this is for the 8th day. So this is the last day. Um, oh, now I have to, which one is the High Holy Day? I think it's the 8th day. Just going to my 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the 8th day is the High Holy Day. And so this is for Passover day 8. Um, Pesach commemorates the story of Exodus from Egypt. Passover begins on the 15th day of the month of Nisan on the Jewish calendar. It's also the week of unleavened bread, during which time the Jewish people eat matzah and abstain from leavened bread. So I apologize. It's not the week of Passover. It's the week of unleavened bread. I'm a little rummy right now. Yeah. Father. On the final day of Passover, which commemorates the crossing of the Red Sea, there is a custom to end the season of redemption with additional, less formal Seder called the Sedet Mishiach. This event focuses on the ultimate redemption and the messianic banquet that will take place in the future. It falls on the 7th day of Passover in Israel and on the 8th day in the diaspora. Oh, this is cool. So, okay. So in Israel, they're going to celebrate it on the 7th day, but those that have been, of us that have been scattered, the 10 tribes that are scattered amongst the nations, we do it on the 8th day. So that's pretty cool. So there's that. I just wanted to kind of, so we're what on the 5th? So 6, so Tuesday. Yeah, let me see here. 5th, 6th, 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Yeah. So on Tuesday, it's the 7th day, but and then that High Holy Day. That's cool. Okay. Now I'm going to go to, let's see. Stop sharing real quick, and then I don't know how to do it any different, so that's how we're gonna do it. Oh, good, and it stayed that way. Let me make it. Can I? No space. It's gonna get. All right. So this is interesting. This is the. It's called Shemini, Shinimi, and it means eighth, and it's the 8th day. Um, the 8th day is, there's some really interesting things that have happened on the 8th day in a lot of, like we just discussed, going the Red Sea. So this is the 26th portion. So we're getting to be just about halfway. And so Shemini, meaning 8th, is the 26th reading in the Torah and describes the events on the 8th day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, the wilderness tabernacle. After 7 days of consecration, so if you remember, not last week because of Passover, but the week before, um, it was Aaron and his sons being inaugurated into the priesthood by Moses. So after 7 days of consecration, Aaron and his sons officially began their priestly service. Aaron offers the prescribed sacrifices, and God reveals his presence by sending fire to consume the offering on the altar, which causes the people to praise and fall in awe. However, tragedy strikes when Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, offer strange fire that God had not commanded, and they are consumed by divine fire. Aaron stoically accepts their fate, and Moses instructs him and their remaining sons to continue their priestly duties. The portion also outlines laws regarding clean and unclean animals, detailing what is permitted and forbidden for consumption. Shemini emphasizes themes of divine holiness, the importance of following God's instructions precisely, and the notion of purity in service and daily living. See, goes right along with what I was talking to you about with the counting of the Omar. Everything's just all beautifully tied together with the theme always of us becoming more like him. So, um, and the notion of purity in service and daily living, and highlights how closeness to God requires both reverence and responsibility. All right. So, and it is Leviticus 9, 1 through 11:47. And then the Haftarah is 2 Samuel 6, 1 through 7:17. And the Brit Hadashah, the Gospels, is Matthew 3, 11 through 17. Okay, 1 minute. Thank you. Sorry. On the eighth day, Moshe called Aaron and his sons, the leaders of Israel, and said to Aaron, take a male calf for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering, both without defect, and offer them before Adonai. Then tell the people of Israel to take a male goat for a sin offering and a calf and a lamb, sin offering and a calf and a lamb, both a year old, without defect for burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for peace offerings to sacrifice before Adonai, also grain offering mixed with olive oil. Because of today, I just actually have to come back up here. Sorry. Um, Aaron's to take a male calf for the sin offering. So let's how things tie beautifully together. This is for Aaron's sin offering. This is for his atonement. This is the first time he is actually making this offering for atonement, because before this, Moses did it all to teach them and show them how to do it for that, week before. Moses did these things. Now, Moses taught Aaron. Now, Aaron, it's his time to make atonement. And isn't it interesting how he has to take a male calf to atone for the sin of the golden calf? This kind of helps to, because, I know a lot of us, it's like, well, why the heck did he get promoted to this position? And what I believe, and I think I read this, that one of the traditional beliefs is that he had such horrific remorse for what he had done. He wasn't prideful and puffed up. He actually had really horrific remorse for what he had done. And so he counted it and as well, the Most High recognized that. But then here he gives him atonement, offers up this male calf for the golden calf. Um, so sorry, had to jump back up there because I thought it was going to tie in, and it probably will, but whatever. Anyway, and an ox and a ram for peace offerings to sacrifice before Adonai. Also grain offering mixed with olive oil, because today Adonai is going to appear to you. So let's get all this stuff together, because today the Most High is going to come down and commune with us. Okay, so some other things that actually I've been reading and interesting. So we go back to, I apologize. Oh, what was I going to say now? Darn it. Um, well, wasn't meant to happen. It left my brain. If it comes back, I was going to go back to, last week with Moses taking care of everything and teaching Aaron and his four sons at the time um, how to do these things. But I can't remember what point I was going to make. Darn it. Oh, maybe I wrote it down in here. I think I did because I took some notes this morning. Um, Moses did the priestly duties as he prepared and taught Aaron and his sons how to do the priestly service. They had to stay out at the tent of meeting for 7 days as Moses prepared um, the inauguration service. Then on the eighth day, they began their priestly service. The eighth day was the first of Nisan. Okay, well, that didn't help me. Darn it. You know what? I noticed that I had Is this? No. Okay. Well, oh well. So here. Um, they brought what Moshe had ordered before the tent of meeting, and the whole community approached and stood before Adonai. Moshe said, "This is what Adonai has ordered you to do so that the glory of Adonai will appear to you." That's what I was going to. So originally, the Most High was going to come and just dwell with everyone, like he does now with us through the Holy Spirit. And that was originally each firstborn son was supposed to be the priest of the family, the priest of the home. And then after the golden calf and those that participated, and then when the tribe of Levi, out of righteous indignation, went and commanded to go slaughter all of those that participated in the golden calf, worshiping the golden calf. That's when the father's like, okay, this isn't, Levi is going to be my priests. And so that's when this all switched over to Moses, and so, or to the Levites. Um, so that's what I was going to say. Anyway, so Moses said, "This is what Adonai has ordered you to do, so that the glory of Adonai will appear to you." And that's the Shekinah glory, the glory from the Most High, was supposed to be with every family in every home and in every heart, kind of like now. But and what separates us from that when we walk the wrong direction, miss the mark, when we go our own way, when we get puffed up with pride, all of those things. So Moshe told Aaron, "Approach the altar, offer your sin offering and burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and the people. Then present the offering to the people and make atonement for them, as Adonai ordered." So Aaron approached the altar and slaughtered the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. Here we go. I knew it would get to it. I'm just jumping the gun. So the slaughtered this calf for atoning for the golden calf and his participation. The sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar, and he poured out the blood at the base of the altar. But the fat, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver and the sin offering he made go up in smoke on the altar as Adonai had ordered Moshe. The meat and the skin were burned up completely outside of the camp. Next, he slaughtered the burnt offering. Aaron's son brought him the blood, and he splashed it against all sides of the altar. They brought him the burnt offerings, piece by piece, the head, and he made them go up in smoke on the altar. He washed the inner organs and the lower parts of the legs and made them go up in smoke on the burnt offering, on top of the burnt offering on the altar. Then the people's offering was presented. He took the goat of the sin offering, which was for the people, and he slaughtered and offered it for sin, like the earlier sin offering. The burnt offering was presented, and he offered it in the prescribed manner. The grain offering was presented. He took a handful of it, made it go up in smoke on the altar in addition to the morning's burnt offerings. He slaughtered the ox and the ram, the people's sacrifice of peace offerings. Aaron's sons brought him the blood, which he splashed against all sides of the altar, and the fat of the ox and the ram, and the fat tail, and the fat which covers the inner organs, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver. They put the fat on the breasts and made the fat go up in smoke on the altar. The breasts and the right thigh Aaron waved as a wave offering before Adonai, as Moshe had ordered. So I just kind of was picturing this in my brain. And, he said they put the fat on the breast, and then he made the fat go up in smoke, and fat is what carries flavor. And they're actually putting the fat on there and letting the fat burn on the piece of meat that they're going to be then eating. I just thought that was kind of interesting. The breast and the right thigh; those are the pieces that they eat. And Aaron waved a wave offering before Adonai as Moshe had ordered. Aaron raised his hands towards the people, and then he blessed them. And this, they say, is he blessed them with the Aaronic, he's Aaron, the Aaronic blessing that actually I think is in Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. He may give countenance. I'm pretty sure that's it. Let me make sure. Don't ever trust what I say. Always research it for yourself. I am not a teacher. I am just sharing my journey of following my Messiah. Um, so Aaronic a blessing right there. Here we go. Uh, This is how to bless the Israelites. And yes, it's in Numbers 6:22 through 27. The Lord bless you and keep you. He make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. That's the Aaronic blessing. So he raised his hands and he blessed the people. Um, and then came down from offering the sin offering and the burnt offering and the peace offerings. Moshe and Aaron entered the tent of meeting, came out and blessed the people. Then the glory of Adonai appeared to all the people. Fire came forth from the presence of Adonai, consuming the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Now, this guy gets confusing, but I briefly touched in it 2 weeks ago, or I read it, that there were three fires that would go on the altar, not just one big. There were three fires and they had different things going on. And that's why this seems like, well, it came down and they burnt the fat on the meat, but then, you know, and I do believe that actually no fire, personally, from what I've read, I believe there was, maybe this was out of sequence, but I don't believe there was a fire yet until the Most High came down and he consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. He did that. But the parts that were, of course, put aside for Aaron and his sons, that would have been there because that was for them to eat. All right. Into 10. This is tragic and this is terrifying. Um, especially when you start looking into it and studying it and stuff. So the death of Nadab and Abihu. But Nadab and Abihu, sons of Aaron, each took his censer and he put fire in it and he laid incense on it and he offered unauthorized fire before Adonai, something that he had not ordered them to do. And this is hard because this is pretty brutal. And there's lots of different, I mean, of course, nobody knows exactly. We weren't there. We've got different accounts. I mean, we've got the account, but then we have different interpretations of things that, kind of where it's not in here about why, because I'm sorry here. At this, fire came forth from the presence of Adonai and consumed them so that they died in the presence of Adonai. Just a thing that I wish every now and then that I could have him do for me with certain people because I still, yeah, I'm working on that. But so I was like, strike him with lightning. Just strike him with lightning. No, don't strike him with lightning. I'm learning to intercede on their behalf instead of wanting tragedy to come befall them. See, we're doing the Omer helps. Anyway, um, in this morning and reading this and really kind of, they were given like some of the highest responsibility next to Aaron, really, and Moses. They were the ones who were going to be ministering, in the tabernacle and with, what is it, much favor or, you know, they were given a lot of with much responsibility. Also becomes, well, anyway, because of their position, they were much more responsible to do things correctly. Now, some say it's because they, maybe had some wine and they were zealous and they wanted to go in and, but he had to show them that, no, I am a holy God and things have to go a certain way. You can't just do things your own way. What happened with the golden calf? They did things their own way. And he had to make an example. It's just, what a wild example. Um, Moshe said to Aaron, and then Aaron's response is just, I mean, as parents, we know. Um, and these are the types of when you truly do audits of yourself, where we have to come up to some of these hard things that's like, this is what I want to do, but this is what I've been called to do. And what are we going to let, you know, rule us? So Moshe said to Aaron, this is what Adonai said, through those who are through those who are near me, I will be consecrated, and before all the people, I will be glorified. Aaron kept silent. So basically, right here, you guys, you and your boys are supposed to be representing me, and you're the closest to me. You get to come the closest than everyone else. I'm going to hold you to a higher standard. I'm going to hold you to higher responsibility because you represent me. And yeah, so they were impetuous and they paid, unfortunately. Moses called Mishael and Etzraphan, sons of Uzziel, Aaron's uncle, and told them, come here and carry your cousins away from in front of the sanctuary to a place outside the camp. So normally the next of kin would have taken care of their dead bodies. Now, of course, their dad is the high priest. He's like forbidden, cannot touch a dead body, period. The two younger brothers, they are right now anointed for their priestly service. They can't touch a dead body. So the next in kin are these nephews or these cousins, Aaron's nephew and Nadab and Abihu's cousins. Come and carry your cousins away from in front of the sanctuary to a place outside the camp. Now, this is interesting. They approached and carried them in their tunics out the camp, as Moshe had said. Um, how are their tunics still intact if they've been burned up? And some people believe that the consuming fire came and entered in them and burned them inside out, basically. But of course, like I said, there's no way to know. We don't have any accounts of it that I know of, but interesting that their tunics were not burned up, and that's how they pulled them out of the camp. Then Moshe told Aaron and his sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, the two remaining sons, do not unbind your hair or tear your clothes in mourning, which was a practice, so that you won't die, and so that Adonai won't be angry with the entire community. Rather, let your kinsmen, the whole house of Israel, mourn because of the destruction Adonai brought about with this fire. So basically, he's like, you guys are right in the middle of inaugurating the tabernacle and your first priestly service. Your allegiance and alliances to the Most High, your family comes second. Come on, really. I mean, don't we aren't we all going to be in a place here or there now and then where we're going to have to choose to hold his standards over what our heart wants to do for our family? I know I picture scenarios in my head of, and it usually is worst case scenario. Okay, when am I going to be able to deal with that type thing? Um, where's your allegiance? Who do you serve? Moreover, so basically, you can't mourn right now. You are called to a higher service. You can't mourn your sons or your brothers. Moreover, don't leave the entrance to the tent of the meeting, or you will die, because Adonai's anointing oil is on you. Adonai said to Aaron, okay, so up to this point, it's been Adonai speaking to Moshe, Adonai speaking to Moshe. And some commentators say because of Aaron's desire and actions of, it's kind of like Abraham and the binding of Isaac. Here his beloved, he's told to take his beloved son that he waited forever to have and to go sacrifice him, and he's choosing, I don't get this, but I'm going to do what you say. Aaron, okay, this is tragic. This breaks my heart. I don't get this, but I'm going to do as you say. And right after that, Adonai said to Aaron. So now he's speaking to Aaron straight instead of through Moshe. Because he could have told Aaron everything up on the mountain, but he told Moshe, and Moshe had to take it and give it to them. Now he's speaking directly. And the first thing he says to him, this is why some people think that maybe they had had some wine, maybe weren't thinking clearly, and made a really dumb mistake. Don't drink any wine or other intoxicating liquor, neither you nor your sons with you, when you enter the tent of meeting, so that you will not die. This is to be a permanent regulation throughout all of your generations. So this is like always, when you're in that position, you need to be clear-headed, clear-minded. And it says here, well, it'll keep going, so that you will distinguish between holy and common and between the unclean and the clean. The Father can't deal with mixture. So there's holy, and then there's set apart, and then there's normal. There's set apart, set above holy, or just the common, or between clean and unclean, right here. And so that you will teach the people of Israel all the laws. He's saying to Aaron, Adonai has told them through Moshe. So now it's being passed over, and that Aaron now will, Moshe so far has been teaching the law to Aaron and his sons. Now it's their time to teach the Torah to everyone. And if you're teaching, you don't, when you're teaching, you don't want to be intoxicated. You want to be clear mind so that you're teaching out of purity. Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar, his remaining sons, take the grain offering left from the offerings for Adonai made by fire, and eat it without leaven next to the altar, because it's especially holy. Eat it in the holy place, because it is your and your sons' share of the offering. For Adonai made fire, for this is what I have been ordered. The breast that was waved and the thigh that was raised, you are to eat in a clean place. You and your sons and your daughters. Now, see, the whole family can come in and eat, which I think is super cool. This is how the offerings is how they survive with you. For these are given as your and your children's share of the sacrifices of the peace offerings presented by the people of Israel. They are to bring the raised thigh and the waved breast along with the offerings of fat made by fire, and wave a wave offering before Adonai. Then it will belong to you and your descendants with you as your perpetual share, as Adonai has ordered. So this is how they live. This is how they get their meat. They don't have flocks of their own. They don't have wheat of their own. They have to rely on the people, the congregation, the nation. Then Moshe carefully investigated what happened to the goat of the sin offering and discovered that it had been burned up. He became angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the remaining sons of Aaron, and asked, why didn't you eat the sin offering in the area of the sanctuary, since it was especially holy? He gave it to you to take away the guilt of the community and to make atonement for them before Adonai. Look, its blood wasn't brought into the sanctuary. You should have eaten it there in the sanctuary as I ordered. Aaron answered Moshe, even though they offered their sin offering and burnt offering today, things like these have happened to me. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have pleased Adonai? On the hearing of this, this reply, Moshe was satisfied. And I can't remember, we learned about this last year, why, because it's like, oh, well, darn, I wish I could remember, because why should this one have been burned up or eaten and not burned up? And it has something to do with the blood going into the sanctuary. But I don't remember. So that's something you guys can look up and research. Okay, and now to 11. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, here's Leviticus 11. Tell the people of Israel, these are the living creatures which you may eat from among all of the land animals. The Father is now determining what is food. Now, see, this has already been established, but you've got to remember that these people have just come out of 400 years in Egypt. We've been here in America 250 years. And what kind of traditions and things that we can consider completely normal are we now finding are not of him, and that we need to change our ways? That's just what's happening here. It's like, okay, you've been in captivity, picked up a lot of really bad habits. Now we got to go over everything so that you're clear about what I expect from you. But these things were always, I mean, no one knew what clean and unclean animals were. But they had been in bondage. They had been servants in Egypt. So they don't remember, too many generations have passed where they picked up old, or bad habits. So any that has a separate hoof, which is completely divided and chews the cud, these animals you must eat, which are interesting. Those are ruminant animals. They eat grass, and then we are able to eat their meat. Interesting that it's not healthy for us to eat animals that eat meat. Hmm. But you are not to eat those that only chew the cud or only have a separate hoof. For example, the camel, the coney, or the hare are unclean to you because they chew the cud but don't have a separate hoof. While the pig is unclean for you because although it has a separate and completely divided hoof, it doesn't chew the cud. You are not to eat meat from these or touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. Of all of these things that live in the water, you may eat these. Anything in the water that has fins and scales, whether in the sea or in the rivers, these you may eat. So, like catfish, don't have scales. They have fins, but they don't have scales. Sharks, I don't think have scales. Porpoises, well, those are, yeah, but they swim, but they don't have scales. There's just certain, so it has to have skin and and fin and scales. Lobsters have scales and they have fins, but they're shellfish. I think that's going to come here. Well, maybe not. But everything in the seas and rivers without both fins and scales, of all the small water creatures and of all the living creatures in the water, are detestable thing for you. Yes, these will be detestable for you. You are not to eat their meat. You are to detest their carcasses. I'm gonna have to look at a lobster, but I mean, they don't have fins. They've got scales. So whatever lacks fins and scales in the water is a detestable thing for you. The following creatures of the air are to be detestable for you. They are not to be eaten. They are detestable things. The eagle, the vulture, the osprey. They eat meat and garbage. The kite, various kinds of buzzards. Yep. Various kinds of ravens. The ostrich, the screech owl, the seagull, and various kinds of hawks. The little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the horned owl, the pelican, the barn owl, the stork, the various kinds of herons, and hopi, and the bat. Ugh. All winged swarming creatures that go on all fours are a detestable thing for you. What is a winged thing that goes on all fours? I don't know. Except that of all winged swarming creatures that go on all fours, you may eat of those that have jointed legs above their feet, enabling them to jump off the ground. I'm thinking like locusts and stuff like that. Specifically, of these, you may eat various kinds of locusts, grasshopper, katydids, and crickets. You may eat. But other than that, all winged swarming creatures having 4 feet are detestable thing for you. The following will make you unclean. Whoever touches the carcass of them will be unclean until evening. And this is something I've been sharing is that, when I first read all this, it's like, oh, I'm impure, I'm awful, I've sinned. Unclean just means you need to wash your clothes and take a bath and make sure you don't have anything nasty on you that can spread to other people. It's a hygiene issue. Not that you personally are dirty. You've just touched what do we do? When I go out and get the eggs, sometimes they got poop on them and stuff. First thing I do is I wash my hands because I touched poop. If I touch a dead thing, which I try not to do, I grab a bag or something. I don't, but anyway, even though I grab them with a bag, I still go wash my hands. So it's hygiene. And whoever picks up any part of their carcass is to wash their clothes and be unclean till evening. If you've picked up their carcass, you probably got something nasty on you, on your clothes. Every animal that has a separate but incomplete divided hoof or that doesn't chew the cud is unclean for you, and anyone who touches them will become unclean. Whatever goes on its paws among all animals, so whatever walks on paws among the animals that go on all fours is unclean for you. Whoever touches its carcass will be unclean until evening. So, cat, dog, mouse, raccoon, possum, those all have paws. And whoever picks up its carcass is to wash their clothes and be unclean until evening. These are unclean for you. The following are unclean for you among the small creatures that swarm on the ground: the weasel, the mouse, and various kinds of lizards, the gecko, the land crocodile, the skink. Oh, my daughter saw a skink the other day. We were walking by a bush. She goes, "Oh, it's a skink." I'm like, "What's a skink?" So, but ran away. I didn't see it. The sand lizard and the chameleon, but they are unclean, crawling creatures. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. My cat kills lizards all the time, and I have to pick them up and take them, throw them away. And so that's when I always carry a bag and go grab a bag or something or a napkin and pick them up with that. Anything on which one of them falls when dead will become unclean. Wooden utensils, articles of clothing, leather sacking, any utensils used for work, it must be put in water and it will be unclean until evening, then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, whatever is in it will become unclean, and you are to break the pot because it's porous. It's probably, falls in there, it dies. If you can't wash it and know that nothing seeped into its pores that could make you sick later, you're going to want to throw it away. Any food permitted to be eaten that water from such a vessel gets on will become unclean, and any permitted liquid in such a vessel will become unclean. Everything on which any carcass of theirs falls will become unclean, whether oven or stove. It is to be broken in pieces. They are unclean and will be unclean for you. Although a spring or a cistern for collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches one of their carcasses will become unclean. Like I said, though, they're not filthy, they're not dirty, they're not nasty, they're not sinners. They got to go wash. If any carcass part of theirs falls on any kind of seed to be sown, it is clean. But if the water is put on seed and the carcass part of theirs falls on it, it is unclean for you. Interesting. So, if the seed's in there and then it starts to grow up through a carcass. If an animal of a kind that you are permitted to eat dies, whoever touches that carcass will be unclean till evening. So it doesn't matter if it's clean or unclean. If you touch a carcass, you're going to be unclean. You got to go wash. A person who eats meat from its carcass or carries its carcass is to wash his clothes. He will be unclean until evening. Any creatures that swarm on the ground is a detestable thing. It is not to be eaten. It's what swarms on the ground. Ants. Whatever moves on its stomach, goes on all fours, or has many legs, all creatures that swarm on the ground, you are to not to eat them, because they are detestable things like snakes and lizards. You are not to make yourselves detestable with any of these swarming, crawling creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean with them. Do not defile yourselves with them. For I am Adonai your God, therefore consecrate yourself and be holy, for I am holy. And do not defile yourself with any kind of swarming creature that moves along the ground. Now you notice that on one hand he's saying you're unclean, but then he's saying don't defile yourself. Okay, let's really break that down. These things we've learned now through science that they have parasites and they're defiling the temple. They're making us unhealthy, and then not washing our hands and then unhealthy. So, for I, Adonai, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, therefore you are to be holy because I am holy. Such then is the law concerning animals, flying creatures, all living creatures that move about in the water, and all creatures that swarm on the ground. Its purpose is to distinguish between unclean and clean, and between the creatures you may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. So later in the Gospels, where it starts talking about different things, and people are like, you know, I forget exactly, but when they're talking about, oh, all food is made clean, that's because here's where we determine what's food and what's not food. So when they hear someone from ancient, the ancient Far East, where, in Yeshua's time, when they hear that sorry, I lost my track again. Um, hmm, oh, you know, the food, when they hear the word food, these things are already not in that category. That you got to understand, their whole life was raised knowing what is in the food category and what's not in the food category. Here in America, we don't eat guinea pigs. We have them as pets. But in South America, they eat guinea pigs and they eat tarantulas. We don't do that here. We don't eat cats and dogs, but there are countries that do. But the thing is, okay, so that is our American standard. But there is the heavenly standard that he created for his chosen people. And here is the standard. If you want to live the way the Most High wants you to live, then you live by this standard of what's food and what's not food. So, okay, and I think that, yes, is it. Now we'll go to 2 Samuel 6:1. All right. The ark is brought to Jerusalem, one of my favorites. Again, David summoned all the picked troops of Israel, 30,000 men. Then David, taking along the entire force he had led with him, then set out for um, Be Baal Yahudah to bring up from there the ark of God, which bears the name of Adonai Sabaoth, enthroned above the cherubim, the angels. They set the ark of God on a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Avinad, Avinadav on the hill with Uzzah and Ach, Achio, the sons of Avinadav, driving the new cart. They led it from the house of Avinadab on the hill with the ark of God. Ahio walked in front of the ark, Uzzah and the ark. Very similar to Nadab and Abihu. Their heart wants, and this is the frightening thing, our hearts want to please him, but if we don't follow his standards, there's consequences. So, where did I? So, sorry. Oh, yeah. David and the whole house of Israel celebrated in the presence of Adonai with all kinds of musical instruments and made of cypress wood, including lyres, lutes, tambourines, rattles, and cymbals. When they arrived at Nachon's threshing floor, the oxen stumbled, and Uzzah put out his hand to steady the ark of God. But Adonai's anger blazed up against Uzzah, and God struck him down on the spot for his offense, so that he died there by the ark of God. There's consequences. It upset David that Adonai had broken out against Uzzah. That place has been called Peretz Uzzah, breaking out of Uzzah ever since. David was frightened of Adonai that day, and he asked, "How can the ark of Adonai come to me?" So David would not bring the ark of Adonai into the city of David. Rather, David took it over to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of Adonai stayed at the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and Adonai blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. King David was told, "Adonai has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and everyone who belongs to him, thanks to the ark of God." So David went and joyously brought the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David. Whoops, sorry. When those bearing the ark of Adonai had gone only 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fattened sheep. Then David danced and spun around with abandon before Adonai, wearing a linen ritual vest. So David and all of his house of Israel brought up the ark of Adonai with shouting and sounds of the shofar. David and Michal. As the ark of Adonai entered the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Shaul, watching from the window, saw King David leaping and spinning before Adonai, and she was filled with contempt for him. They brought the ark of Adonai in and put it in its place inside the tent that David had set up for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Adonai. When David had finished offering the burnt offering and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the manner of Adonai Zavavot. Then he distributed to all the people of Israel, to everyone there, both men and women, a loaf of bread, a portion of meat, and a raisin cake, after which the people all left for their homes. When David returned to bless his household, Michal, the daughter of Shaul, came out to meet him and said, "Such an honor the king of Israel earned for himself today, exposing himself before his servant slave girls, like some vulgar exhibitionist." David answered Michal, "In the presence of Adonai, who chose me over your father and over everyone in his family to make me chief over Adonai's people, over Israel, I will celebrate in the presence of Adonai." Amen. I will make for myself still more contemptible than that, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes. But those slave girls you mentioned will honor me. Michal, the daughter of Shaul, remained childless until the day she died. Our words, boy, what comes out of our mouth can bless or curse. Okay, 7. After the king had been living in his palace a while, and Adonai had given him rest from his surrounding enemies, the king said to Nathan, the prophet, "Here, I am living in a cedarwood palace, but the ark of God is kept in a tent." Nathan said to the king, "Go and do everything that is in your heart, for Adonai is with you." But the same night the word of Adonai came to Nathan. "Go and tell my servant David that this is what Adonai says. You are going to build me a house to live in. You are going to. Okay. Since the day I brought the people of Israel out of Egypt until today, I never lived in a house. Rather, I traveled in a tent and a tabernacle. Everything where I traveled, excuse me, with all the people of Israel, did I ever speak a word of any of the tribes of Israel whom I ordered to shepherd my people Israel, asking, why haven't you built me a cedar wood house? Therefore says this to my servant David, that this is what Adonai Sabaoth says. I took you from the sheepyards, from following the sheep, to make you chief over all my people, over Israel. I have been with you wherever you went. I have destroyed all of your enemies ahead of you, and I am making your reputation great, like the reputations of the greatest people on earth. I will assign a place for my people Israel. I will plant them there so that they can live in their own place without being disturbed anymore. The wicked will no longer oppress them as they did at the beginning, and as they did from the time I ordered the judges to be over my people Israel. Instead, I will give you rest from all of your enemies. Moreover, Adonai tells you that Adonai will make you a house. When your days come to an end and you sleep with your ancestors, I will establish one of your descendants to succeed you, one of your own flesh and blood, and I will set up his rulership. He will build a house for my namesake, and I will establish his royal throne forever. I will be the father for him, and he will be a son for me. If he does something wrong, I will punish him with a rod and blows, just as everyone gets punished. You know, we punish our children not out of anger and hatred most of the time, but to teach them. And he punishes us, and we reap our consequences to teach us. Nevertheless, my grace will not leave him, as I took it away from Shaul, whom I removed from before you. Thus your house and your kingdom will be made secure forever before you. Your throne will be set up forever. Nathan told David all of these words and described this entire vision. So, and now we go down to Matthew 3. 11 through 17. It's true that I am immersing you in waters so that you might turn from sin to God, but one coming after me is more powerful than I. I am not worthy even to carry his sandals, and I will immerse you in the Ruach HaKodesh, in the Holy Spirit, and in fire. He has with him his winnowing fork, and he will clear out his threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn, but burning up the straw with unquenchable fire. Then the baptism of Yeshua. Then Yeshua came from the Galilee to the Jordan to be immersed by Yochanan, John. But Yochanan tried to stop him. You are coming to me. I ought to be immersed by you. However, Yeshua answered him, let it be this way now, because we should do everything righteousness requires. Then Yochanan led him. As soon as Yeshua had been immersed, he came up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God coming down upon him like a dove. And a voice from the heavens said, this is my son whom I love, and I am well pleased with him. So that is our portion for this week. I want to really thank all of you that have prayed for me and Rusty and our family in these past couple of months that have been so challenging. But through it all, he's taught us so many amazing, beautiful things and drawn us closer to him and helped us to be more like him, pick up his attributes and lay down the world's. So let me know how your Passover went. Let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to hear from all of you. Anyway, be blessed. And y'all willing, I will see you next week with Torah portion number 27. And I think it's a double portion next week. So enjoy the rest of the Feast on Unleavened Bread and first fruits. And if you want more information about counting the Omar, let me know about a devotional for the next 50 days, how to transform and transform our hearts and rewire our brain to break off the wrong thinking that we have allowed that causes curses in our brain and to take on his ways. It is a beautiful journey, and we're only, day 3, and it's been really beautiful. So be blessed, and like I said, y'all willing, I'll see you next week. And end.